It a little while because we have the joy of welcoming into studio Joanne Callan of Try the Alternative.
Good morning, all.
And Destination Wellbeing. We're very happy people, aren't we? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
That's it.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, be always sure to show it. And you do that by clapping hands. This is the survey that's out today.
Yeah.
We in Northern Ireland are the king of the crop, the pick of the crop in terms of happiness. Why do you think we're so happy here in Northern Ireland, Miss Wellbeing Woman?
Well, I think we're maybe now beginning to breathe a little bit, having come through the troubles. And maybe that gives you a sense of realisation of what is important, and we're starting to see that. And that has shifted.
Isn't she very wise, I tell you?
I think so.
Really,
Who
you're
knows?
right. You're absolutely right.
Whoever knows what these reasons are, but we'll accept that we are.
I think it's a very good thing to do. And friends of mine in Africa, in a very troubled land, are said to be the happiest people on earth. Nigerian people, happiest people on earth. And they've been through an awful lot there. They don't have much, but there's no depression, there's no suicide, there's nothing like that at all. And strangely enough, the happiest places in Northern Ireland, one is Omagh. You would think Omagh, with its provenance of awfulness, and
in a recent time where the rest of us had maybe been able to
anyway, there you are. What sort of week's been for you? What are you doing?
It's been really good. I was in England with...
Oh, you were with the
with
big
Relaxed
knobs
Kids
of
in
Relaxed
England,
Kids, yes.
Which was fantastic and really great to see the amount of work that's been done out there on children's well-being and making sure that you know, that we look after them and that they're not getting lost in the, I suppose, the education system particularly is under so much pressure now. And
yes.
There's, you know, bigger class numbers and teachers have such less time, so it's not that the teachers are necessarily to blame for some of the loss at all.
They operate with what they've got.
They operate with what they have, and they're doing the best that they can. But you know, in that, children are, because of the system and because of the cuts and all of that, children are getting left and you know, sort of lost behind. And this has to be done, so we do this regardless of what else is happening. But that shift is happening again, a bit like the change that's happening maybe towards happiness. It seems to be happening, and certainly Relaxed Kids are doing, you know, my fellow coaches, and not just within the Relaxed Kids model, but people in general. There's a lot of strides being made to support and strengthen children's resilience and their to look after their emotional well-being in a very subtle way. It's not about the seriousness. Sometimes when we talk about emotional well-being or mental health, you know, we've this scare, people are afraid of it, and it's not something to be afraid of. Prevention's better than cure.
Absolutely.
And if we can, you know, if we can take children at a very young age and give them skills and techniques that can help them to deal with stress, because no matter what, I mean, parents nearly always have a view of what they'd like their children to do.
Well, therein is a seed bed for stress.
Yeah,
that's the beginning
of it.
And
but even if we take it away from that, most parents, I believe, would have the aspiration that their children will be financially secure, that they'll be able to have a career or a job that allows them to do that. But with that comes stress and pressure.
It does.
We're familiar with the saying that we get nothing for nothing. So generally speaking, the, you know, teachers, solicitors, but even any of those jobs, and it really doesn't matter what job people are doing now. The world is busy, the world is stressful.
It is.
And I really think we need to spend more time looking at how we can support children so that they're not having emotional maybe breakdowns in, you know, later on.
You bring back from England with you knowledge which you're now going to disseminate throughout Ireland, because you're the head coach in Ireland.
I'm now the coach in Ireland.
Wow,
so,
look, we've got a head coach with us here, babies, I tell you.
But a really exciting time ahead in terms of children's mental well-being, because you know, and giving them practices that they can just gets them over to sleep easier, quietens any little worries that they might have that are, you know.
Do little children worry?
They do, unbelievably, about the smallest and the simplest of things.
And what age would that start at?
It can start from the tiniest age, you know, even children starting school now, one of the things that we might say to them, are you nervous about starting school?
Yeah.
And we've just simply planted a seed.
Why should I be nervous?
Should I?
Yeah,
what's
what do you
that?
mean?
And I better be, because somebody's asked me,
Yeah.
should I be? And it's, you know, and it's a really normal question, and it happens, just rolls off the tongue. And again, we transfer that through to maybe now transfer test, and thankfully we all have our different opinions as to whether it should be happening or shouldn't. I just think children shouldn't be under that stress.
I had a unique, in my childhood, I had a unique mechanism for dealing with childhood stress. As a tiny child, in St. Joseph's Convent School over there, I ran out the gate and went home to Mary Street, to the consternation of my parents and my old aunts.
And that's it. It did happen. It did exist. It just was different.
Absolutely.
It was a different time, and you know, exercise is definitely one of the best.
Exercise. But it's also possible for parents to love their children too much. I'll tell you what I mean by that. There comes a time when the child needs to be divorced from the notion that mummy and daddy, aunt and uncle, they're all there and we're all happy and nothing can hurt us. And the reality is, outside the door, lots of things can hurt. So you have to develop some kind of carapace, some kind of shell for the children, so that they have a mechanism for combating the nastiness.
Yeah.
I just want to sort of meet that balance.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I don't think we can ever love a child too much. I think we can sometimes
Some of them I've come across, you couldn't love them at all, the roars and the shouts of them. Go to sleep now!
But I think we do have an obligation to create resilience within children.
Yeah.
That they're able to cope with the challenges that life might bring. So whilst there's a lot of emphasis on bullying and on, taking an approach of an anti-bullying campaign,
Yes.
to me, that campaign should be a pro-respect campaign, a respect for yourself as an individual, but a respect for others as well, so that it doesn't, we don't need to then worry about bullying. Because if we all have respect for each other and a deep respect within ourselves, we've got more of a resilience. And you know, we all heard let stuff wash over. Now I know it goes to extremes, and there are some children who, you know, really get caught up in extreme situations where they are being bullied. But I agree with that it's this resilience that I think maybe we've went through a generation, and I do think it's changing, but where, you know, every child was the winner. Every child is special, and every child is unique, and every child has fantastic talents, all different. They don't all have to be the same.
You're designing Camelot. You're designing Narnia. You're designing Nirvana, the world's most wonderful. It'd be nice if we had a world that
yes,
worked
and I do think that change is happening, and yet maybe it's a goal to strive for. But I think if it starts with each individual child. And
Joanne, how can people, because you will be tutoring those who will go forward and be emissaries for the kids program. Is it open to people who are interested in doing this kind of work to contact you?
Yeah, definitely to contact me. The main booking is done through Relax Kids, so we've a number of dates coming up. We've Newry in November.
And this is to teach people what it's about
to
and how they can
the
get
Relax
involved.
Kids model, basically. Yes, and to give them a package. So there's lots of different ways and lots of different people. Some people do it as I did 2 years ago. As a business, so they'll run classes privately, and that other teachers might do it to bring it into the classroom and to bring it into their schools. Occupational therapists, classroom nursery workers. There's lots of variety within the programs and the model that Relax Kids teaches. And as I say, we've dates coming up: Newry in November, Dublin in January of next year, and Belfast in March of next year. So there's good opportunities,
good things
there.
happening.
But if anybody is interested in looking at the work that Relax Kids does, and really the model is creating calm, confident children. So that's what we're looking at.
So what have you on the programme today, dear gal?
On the programme today, we have a lady called Lara Forsyth, and Lara works through the Modern Mystery School, which all
what
sounds
is
a bit,
that? Wow.
And Lara works with DNA activation, life activation, and an empower thyself model of well-being. Really, so
I'm speechless.
yeah, that all sounds a lot
You want me
in
to,
one show.
Lara will want us to get in touch with her DNA.
Yes, get in touch with our DNA and sort of activate that life force within.
Yeah. And what will that actually do for folk? Will that be, is it a case of making sure you're not a square peg in a round hole?
Yes, I suppose that would be a simple analogy for it, or complex analogy, whichever case that may be. But basically, I suppose the work is designed to maybe, if someone's sitting in a phase in their life where they've maybe realised that things aren't flowing how they want them to flow in different aspects. So that might be with their health, it might be relationships, it might be work, it could be whatever it is, that working through a process of sort of life activation and empowering themselves.
Do you think relationship, you use that word, do you think relationship is a natural state for humanity? You know, when we were cavemen, we caught the woman or the man, caught the hair, pulled her into the cave, and they made babies, and then he threw her out again, and you know, that sort of thing. But maybe that's what's in our DNA. But we're not built to be in a lifelong relationship.
Possibly, and I would subscribe to that way of thinking. I think, to a degree, I suppose it depends on what your version of relationship was, because that was relationship in itself. And we're in relationships with people all of the time, so it may not be a romantic relationship,
but a respectful relationship.
But I think respectful relationship is
I think
important.
if you have that, everything can flow from it.
Yes, respect is probably the key. Back even to children, teaching them respect for themselves and respect for others.
And no selfishness. You know, you don't capture anyone in a cage. If you do, you leave the cage door open. The person can fly and pick up some berries here and there and come back into the cage and then go out the next day. Everybody's happy.
But I think the key there is in remembering, back to the empower thyself, that no one can make us feel anything. So
you haven't known some of the people I have known.
Well, but we still choose how we feel.
Yes, that's the significant thing. We still have that choice.
Their actions, we don't have to. Their actions can still be their actions.
The hurt I refuse to take remains hurting the hurter. With him.
Or just not letting it in on you. So we have a choice. If someone, and sometimes that sits difficult when someone has done something that has really let us down or really hurt, and you know, having worked through issues like that personally myself as well. But the freedom, or the for me personally, the freedom comes when we acknowledge that actually we had a choice of how we felt. We don't have to condone the actions, but and we're not saying that what that person did or do wasn't wrong, but it's how we choose to feel with that.
I'm going to surprise you now, because we're going to do I'm going to do another wee bit of news. Maybe you'll help me look at the papers, will you? I have two papers here, and I have papers across the way. There's two for you. I'll start us off, and you can look at that and get a few ideas, just headlines more than anything else. And we shall do this for you now. Let me tell you, as Joanne is looking at the papers there, Joanne, you're on air today at what, 3 o'clock?
3 p.m. today.
3 p.m. in Destination Wellbeing here in Uri. Learn all about the matters of your DNA and where it's going to take you. The paper's top stories across the water this morning: the Daily Telegraph, the Metro, the Independent, the Eye, the Daily Mirror, the Guardian, the Times, and Uncle Tom Cobley and all. The Prime Minister David Cameron recalling Parliament to ask MPs to vote on airstrikes against Islamic State, as the United States President Barack Obama calls on the world to unite against what he calls their network of death. And then the Daily Star is telling us a British teenager has reportedly been killed in a United States airstrike in Syria. The British teenager being a British jihadist. The Daily Mail, we're going up market ever so slightly. David Cameron issued an apology to the Queen after boasting she purred down the phone. That's almost, you mustn't say that sort of thing about the Queen. Purring, it brings the Queen close to a sensual, sentient being. You know, you're not allowed to, you purr with pleasure. The Queen mustn't be pleased. I'm not pleased. The Sun. Somebody called, do you know anybody called Jason Orange?
Oh, Jason Orange was a Take That singer.
Yeah, you got it. You got it in one. You got it in one. You got it. Take That. That's what you got. He's now quit the band. The Daily Express is there. Up to 130 asylum seekers are being put up at a seaside hotel in Folkestone with the taxpayer. Aren't they so petty? You know, with the taxpayer footing the bill. I don't get this. These are asylum seekers. They've been driven out of their homeland. They've been tortured. If they go back, they'll be tortured again. And this rubbish newspaper, the Daily Express, is saying, they're being the taxpayers footing the bill. How dare they? You know, what are you finding there? Have you anything there?
Anything of interest? Well, Rowan, it's a long time from I've read a newspaper.
Well, sure, now you just have the headlines there.
But the headline picked up Billy Connolly speaking about Parkinson's and
his prostate cancer as well, indeed. Which is a thing, you know.
Very much about health and coming into where we're heading into that season where we start looking into men's health and well-being. So
yes.
But yes, just noticed in the Irish News tells us today that the pound sterling is strongest against the euro since 2012.
Wow, so we're doing something right.
Yes.
I wonder where it would be today, what the complication would be if Scotland had said, we are leaving.
Yes,
that might be different.
Where that change would happen.
Yes.
So that's...
I have news here for you, and this is, you know, it's interesting. An experiment by researchers at Limerick Institute of Technology has landed on board the International Space Station. Excellent. What do you think of that?
Yes,
Over the next month, the research will explore how shamrock-type plant, they say clover, but shamrock-type plant, reacts in space and whether it can be used as a natural fertilizer for crops growing in zero gravity. The scientists behind the experiment say that first time an Irish institution has been a leader and a principal investigator in an experiment on the International Space Station. Limerick. They say that if it's successful, in Limerick, yeah. They say if it's successful, the Indians started orbiting Mars yesterday. Did you get that story?
Yes, no, I didn't.
You see, you're too much involved with all these children-y things.
Health and well-being.
Yeah. But Mars is
too much of the news is
well, here, there's a thing you'd be proud of. 2 Belfast children praised for helping to save their father, who went into anaphylactic shock while driving. He had been stung by a wasp. Yes. And the children did the right thing. They helped and they got a passerby to phone the ambulance. Daddy was taken away. The little girl said, suddenly he was kind of speaking funny, and it just didn't sound right. That's the little girl who was in the car at the time.
And that's, I mean, that's the resilience that we're talking about.
Yeah, to do the right thing,
yeah.
You know. What else have we got? Oh, it's back to the Prime Minister again.
Yes.
The Prime Minister has confessed to being very embarrassed and extremely sorry over the gaffe which was caught on camera as he chatted with a billionaire media tycoon. We all say things to millionaires that we wouldn't say in ordinary.
Wouldn't say to other people.
You know, you just say it. And God, she was delighted. She actually even purred it down the phone. She just naturally
comes off.
Yeah. Well, listen to me. Is there a final word from you? Because we're going to end the News Hub at this stage, and we will go, rather than into any sort of thing in the News Hub, I'm going to tell you about an event. No, we'll end the News Hub at this point. That's what we'll do. Once you've said your goodbyes to the people. Yes. Anything further there? Just give us
well,
one
we've a new health
with.
Minister. So speaking of with Destination Wellbeing, the idea of a health minister that hopefully we
get him on your programme.
We need to get him in and have a chat.
You get him in
him.
on the programme. Yes, that will happen. There's no two ways about it.
But health minister or not, I think it's taking responsibility for our own health and our own well-being.
You got it there.
We don't need to worry too much about what the rest of them are doing.
We're now going to play the outro for the Destination Newry News Hub, and we thank our sponsor, who's around the corner from us here, Savages, that great retail emporium of news and chicken curries.
Yes,
and
that's good.
Red Bull.
Chicken curries. Are we allowed to mention chicken curry and Red Bull in my earshot?
I'm sorry.
Hear them. No, don't hear those words.
I'm Rowan Hand. This is Joanne Callan.
Good morning.